Welcome back, everyone. Today, we journey deep into one of the most powerful turning points in human history, the rise of Pharaoh Narmer, the legendary ruler who unified Upper and Lower Egypt and created the world's first great kingdom. But before we begin, I have a question for you. What if one man's ambition could forge a civilization that lasted over 3,000 years? Do you believe destiny shapes kings, or do kings shape destiny? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. If you love epic historical storytelling, don't forget to like, subscribe, and ring the bell so you never miss a new chapter. And tell me, what kind of story should I read next? My channel is built for you, and your ideas guide the future. Now, prepare yourself. Our journey into ancient Egypt begins.
The desert should not have been cold. Yet on that morning, as the first pale sunlight spilled across the dunes north of Thinis, a thin veil of snow clung to the sand like frost upon a sleeping beast. The flakes shimmered gold beneath the dawn, catching warmth they did not feel. Beyond the horizon, a slow wind crept over the land, an omen, the elders whispered, of upheaval. And in the heart of that ancient capital, a prince walked alone. Narmer, son of the aging King Scorpion II, moved with the deliberate silence of one trained to listen to the desert. His cloak, dyed the deep red of Upper Egypt, brushed against the snow-dusted stones. Above him, hawks spiraled in the brightening sky, their shadows long and sharp. "Today," he murmured to himself, "the gods wake early." Since childhood, Narmer had seen signs others overlooked. He read prophecy in the wind, warnings in the sand, and purpose in the flight of birds. His tutors, priests of the falcon god Horus, whispered that the prince had been born with one foot in the mortal world and one in the realm of gods. But today he was no mystic, only a son summoned to witness the decline of his father. The palace courtyard was silent when he entered. Snow gathered in soft spirals across the flagstones, creating pale rivers through the carved hieroglyphs that told the story of Upper Egypt's earliest kings. Torches sputtered in the cold breeze, their flames bending low. A guard bowed. "Your father waits in the Hall of Crowns." Narmer nodded, though unease gnawed at him. The Hall of Crowns was opened only for matters of succession. He followed the long colonnade, passing murals that depicted the old kings wearing the white crown of the south, tall, elegant, shaped like a cone of divine authority. It was the symbol of Upper Egypt, the half-kingdom he would one day inherit. But a crown was only half the truth. Beyond the river delta to the north, Lower Egypt thrived, wealthier, broader, ruled by its own serpent-crowned king. The two lands had waged war for generations, neither bowing to the other. Some dreamed of unity, most dreamed of domination. Narmer dreamed of both. As he reached the Hall of Crowns, the great cedar doors opened slowly, revealing the dim chamber within. Flickering lamplight danced across ivory carvings and gold-plated pillars, and at the far end, lying upon a low stone platform, was King Scorpion II, wrapped in furs against the abnormal cold. The old king's breath rattled like dry papyrus. "You walk as though the sandals of a king already touch your feet," Scorpion rasped. Narmer bowed deeply. "I walk only as your son." His father lifted a trembling hand. "Then hear a father's warning. The two lands pulled toward each other like twin hawks circling the same prey. Unity is coming, but unity requires a hand that will not tremble. The king's hand fell. Will yours tremble, Narmer? The prince lifted his gaze, blue eyes sharp as obsidian. No, he said, voice steady. My hand will not tremble. Then the gods have truly chosen you, Scorpion whispered. Take the white crown. A priest stepped forward, carrying the ancient crown on a cushion of linen. Snow drifted through the cracked skylight above, melting slowly as it touched the warm gold of the crown. A holy contrast, winter upon a symbol of fire.
The first hours of Narmer's reign moved like a slow ritual. Priests chanted verses from the oldest scrolls, their voices echoing against the snow-lit walls of the temple. They spoke of the gods who shaped kingship. Horus, the falcon who grants rightful rule. Seth, the stormbringer who tests strength. Wadjet, the serpent goddess of the northern kingdom. Nekbet, the vulture goddess of the southern kingdom. In their words, the two lands were living spirits, ancient rivals craving a single master. When the ceremonies ended, Narmer stood before the assembled nobles and generals atop the southern palace terrace. Snow swirled around them like drifting spirits, reflecting the warm glow of the rising sun. Upper Egypt has its king, Narmer declared, but Egypt itself is not yet whole. A murmur rippled through the crowd. General Anhur, tall, scarred, loyal since Narmer's childhood, stepped forward. You speak of unification, my king, he said carefully. I speak of destiny, Narmer corrected. He raised the white crown so the sun caught its bright curve. Two lands, one ruler, one future. But unity would not come by words alone. Beyond the distant horizon, Lower Egypt's king wore the red crown, symbol of the marshlands and northern power. He was known as King Jehut, the serpent-crowned, a ruler whose spies traveled the river like shadows. He would not yield. He would not bow. Narmer turned toward the north. Send word to Jehut, he commanded. Tell him the hawk comes for the serpent. The nobles exchanged uneasy glances, some excited, some fearful. Snow continued to fall. Before Narmer made war, he sought prophecy. He journeyed to the ancient cliff temple of Nekbek, where carvings of vulture-winged goddess guardians watched over the valley. Snow clung to the cliffs in shimmering layers, glowing orange beneath the afternoon sun. Inside the sacred cavern, the air smelled of stone dust and incense. Elders sat in a circle around a brazier. They regarded Narmer not as king, but as the child who once walked these halls. The time has come, Narmer said simply. The eldest seer, her hair white as sand beneath frost, stirred the coals. Unity has been whispered for generations, but prophecy demands balance. To unite, one must first destroy. Narmer's jaw tightened. What must fall? The oracle reached into the flames, unharmed, and drew forth a burning coal. It pulsed like a beating heart. The serpent's crown must shatter, and the hawk must bleed. Narmer froze. Your blood? Asked General Anhur quietly. The oracle nodded. Only through sacrifice may the two lands become one. Narmer bowed his head.
the fire's glow reflected in his eyes like molten gold. "So it be," he said. Outside the temple, the wind shifted suddenly, carrying with it the distant sound of drums, war drums. Lower Egypt had moved first, and unity would begin with fire.
Snow did not belong in the marshlands of the Delta. Yet that year, the sky had defied all traditions. The city of Buto, capital of Lower Egypt, lay beneath a shimmering crust of frost. Papyrus fields crackled under the weight of ice. The great waterways slowed, their surfaces reflecting the morning sun in warm golden sheets, steam rising like breath from the mouths of ancient gods. Inside the hall of Wajet, King Jehut, the serpent-crowned, stood before a mirror of polished bronze. His fingers traced the curve of the red crown, the ancient symbol of the northern realms, low, flat-topped, and marked by the upright cobra that guarded Lower Egypt. He studied his reflection. A serpent does not fear frost, he reminded himself. It coils beneath it. It waits. It strikes. His general Menek entered silently, snow melting on his armored shoulders. "My king," Menek began, bowing, "our scouts report that the southern prince has crowned himself. The white crown rises." Jehut's lips tightened. "So, the boy becomes a hawk. His father dies and the vultures stir." "He speaks of unification," Menek added cautiously. Jehut turned sharply. "Unification for whom? For the south? For a hawk raised among sand and stones? No. Egypt belongs to the Delta, to the serpent who has guarded it for generations." Menek bowed again. "What are your orders?" Jehut lifted his eyes toward the northern horizon, where the sun shone warmly across the snow-covered marsh. Each ray sparkled on frost like thousands of snake scales. "Prepare the fleets. We do not wait for the hawk to descend." He touched the red crown with reverence. "If Narmer seeks unity, he will find war instead." The Nile had never been so quiet. Narmer stood upon the deck of his war barge, the wood creaking beneath a thin coat of frost. Snowflakes drifted in the golden sunlight, settling on the oars as soldiers rowed north. The river, normally loud with the croaks of delta birds, lay strangely still. Only the rhythmic splash of oars and the whisper of wind broke the silence. General Anhur approached. "Scouts report Jehut has begun mobilizing. He plans to meet us before we reach Per Wajet." Narmer nodded slowly. "I expected as much," he said. "A serpent always strikes from the reeds." He looked across the riverbanks, palm trees dusted and white, mud brick huts coated in frost, sunlight reflecting off the frozen earth like melted gold. "This winter," Narmer murmured, "it is wrong." "Unnatural," Anhur agreed. "Perhaps a sign from the gods." "Or a test," Narmer said. He gripped the rail, staring ahead. "When the two lands become one, balance must be restored. The gods judge my worthiness. The snow is their witness." A sudden horn echoed across the water. Another war barge approached, the vessel of Priestess Enip, representative of Horus. Her arrival meant only one thing: divine instructions. As her ship glided up beside Narmer's, she stepped onto his deck with the fluid grace of one accustomed to ceremony. Snowflakes melted instantly upon her warm-colored linen robes embroidered with gold falcon feathers. "My king," she said, bowing, "the gods have spoken." Narmer steadied his breath. "What do they command?" She raised a sealed scroll. The path to unity requires 3 trials. Narmer frowned. Trials. 3 choices that will define the 2 lands. If you fail even one, Egypt will fracture forever. General Anher shifted uneasily. Narmer broke the seal. Inside, written in ancient ink, to rule the 2 lands, the hawk must learn where to spare, where to strike, and where to kneel before destiny. Narmer lowered the scroll. "I have my path," he said softly, but the priestess shook her head. "Your path begins with blood. The serpent moves to strike." As if summoned by her words, horns sounded in the distance, low, thunderous, echoing across the snowy river. Jehut's fleet had appeared. Each ship carved the icy water like dark blades. The first clash between Upper and Lower Egypt did not occur on sand, but on the river, a battlefield of ice and sunlight. Narmer's fleet formed a tight wall across the narrow pass near the river bend. The gold-painted prows, carved into falcon heads, gleamed warmly despite the cold. Snowflakes settled on shields, spears, and helmets, turning the army of the south into statues of frost and bronze. Across the water, Jehud's fleet advanced. Red banners snapped in the wind. The cobra emblems glowed in the sun like molten fire. Warriors with blue-painted skin and reed shield armor roared their battle cries. A serpent meets the hawk. Narmer raised his spear. "Hold," he commanded. His men obeyed even as the enemy drew closer, even as the river wind stung their faces, even as the snow thickened. General Anher shouted, "They intend to ram us!" "Hold," Narmer repeated. The first northern ship thundered forward, its prow shaped like an open cobra's mouth. Narmer closed his eyes. The world slowed. He heard the river breathe beneath the ice. He felt the wind flow from the south. He saw, in the golden sunlight, the shape of a hawk diving. His eyes snapped open. "Left oars, full force!" The southern barge swung sharply, avoiding the northern ram by a hand's width. The cobra ship shot past harmlessly. "Right oars, cut back!" Narmer commanded. The hawk ship spun smoothly, its decorated prow slamming into the enemy vessel's side. Wood cracked. Men fell into icy water. Snow exploded into white mist. Narmer moved with the precision of prophecy, blocking, striking, commanding, guiding his men like a conductor guiding a storm. His spear glowed under the warm sunlight as though touched by Horus himself. Then, through the chaos, Narmer saw him. Jehut, the Serpent King, stood upon his flagship, red crown blazing against the snowy wind, cobra crest gleaming like liquid gold. Their eyes locked across the frozen water. A silent promise formed. One crown, one Egypt, one victor. Night fell. The warm colors of sunset washed the snowy delta in hues of red and gold. Fires burned along the marshlands as both armies retreated to regroup. But Narmer did not rest. His fleet had succeeded, but not enough to secure victory. The city of Perwajet, stronghold of Lower Egypt, still stood untouched. Narmer gathered his generals in a tent lit with warm firelight. "We attack at dawn," he said. General Anher frowned. "Their walls are strong, the marshland is treacherous, the snow makes it worse." "We do not attack the walls," Narmer said quietly. "We attack the river." The generals exchanged puzzled looks. Narmer spread a map before them, drawn in soft gold ink on dark papyrus. The Delta city survives because of the 3 river channels that surround it like a serpent's coils. If one channel freezes, the city loses balance. Freeze, Anhur repeated. The Nile does not. He stopped, because this winter, it did freeze. Narmer pointed north. We break the northern embankment. The snow-laden wind will do the rest. The water will freeze within hours. Their ships will be trapped, their supplies cut. Their serpent will suffocate in its own coils. The tent fell silent. You intend to use nature as a weapon, Anhur murmured. Narmer's eyes glowed in the firelight. No, he said. I intend to use destiny.
The delta dawn burned with warm gold across a land born of frost. Where the Nile once flowed freely, it now lay frozen in great shimmering bands, wide mirrors of white and gold stretching between fields of snow. The unnatural winter had not broken. Instead, the cold deepened, claiming reeds, marshland huts, and even the towering walls of Perwajet under sheets of glittering frost. From the top of a snowy dune, Narmer observed the scene. The city, once pride of Lower Egypt, stood like a serpent frozen mid-strike. 3 river channels glistened around it. 2 were sluggish with moving water, but the northern one, the one Narmer had targeted, had hardened into a solid sheet of ice. General Anhur approached, breath fogging in the warm-lit cold. It worked. The northern channel is frozen stiff. Jayut's fleets cannot move. Narmer's gaze sharpened. It is the gods who did the freezing. We simply guided their hand. Below, Lower Egyptian sailors scrambled across their trapped ships, trying desperately to break the ice, but their tools shattered, their efforts failed. Snow fell harder. A serpent caught in winter. Priestess Anip joined them, her warm-colored falcon feather robes fluttering in the wind. Perwajet is vulnerable, but only for a short time. When the sun reaches its height, the ice will weaken. Then we strike before noon, Narmer declared. Anhur nodded. We can breach the frozen channel and storm the city gates. Narmer shook his head. No, their gates are strong. The marshlands are treacherous. He pointed to the frozen river. We attack from the water. The ice is our bridge. Anip's eyes widened. You intend to march an army across the frozen Nile? Narmer stepped onto the first layer of ice. It did not crack. It held. The gods have given us a path, he said. Behind him, the army roared their readiness. Shields thudded, spears clashed, and warm sunlight flashed over bronze armor dusted with snow. Narmer lifted the white crown. Today, the serpent's coil breaks. The army of Upper Egypt moved across the frozen river like a single, unstoppable force. Warriors advanced in wide formation, shields raised, boots crunching on the frost. Snow fell in gentle spirals, glowing orange in the morning sunlight. Priests of Horus marched in the center, chanting low to keep fear at bay, for the ice groaned beneath them with every step. Yet the river held. Narmer marched at the front, spear in hand, cloak bellowing behind him like a trail of fire in the snowy light. General Anhur walked at his side. Lower Egypt's archers are forming ranks across the walls, he warned. Narmer did not slow. Let them see us coming. The fear will strike before the arrows do. A horn blared from the city. Arrow volleys rose. Shields, Anhur commanded. The sky darkened with arrows, then brightened again as sunlight reflected off their issy descent. Many shattered harmlessly on shields. Others embedded themselves in the frozen river like black teeth and white bone. Still, Narmer advanced. He raised his spear. "Forward!" His voice carried across the ice with the weight of prophecy. Then the gates of Perwajet opened. Lower Egyptian warriors surged out, their serpent banners whipping in the snow wind. Their armor gleamed copper-bronze beneath the warm sun, and their faces were painted with the red and blue markings of Jayut's elite. At their front marched General Menek. He pointed his sword at Narmer. "The serpent strikes!" The armies collided. The clash was unlike any battle Egypt had ever seen. The frozen river cracked under the weight of hundreds of warriors. Spears shattered on shields. Snow and ice exploded underfoot. The warm sunlight cut through the chaos in golden beams, illuminating the crimson splashes on white frost. Narmer fought like a hawk descended from the heavens. He moved with precision, cutting, blocking, turning enemies aside with the grace of a warrior king. The white crown gleamed on his head as though lit from within. General Menek charged across the brittle ice. "Narmer," he roared, "the serpent will not bow to a boy." Narmer met him head-on. Spears met swords. Snow sprayed around them. The ice groaned beneath their weight. "You defend a kingdom that refuses to change," Narmer shouted. "And you seek to erase ours," Menek replied. Their weapons clashed again and again, until, with a sudden shift, the ice beneath Menek cracked. Narmer's eyes widened. He lunged forward, grabbing Menek's arm and pulling him away from the forming fissure. The general stared at him in shock. "You saved me." Narmer looked him in the eyes. "We do not need two lands soaked in the blood of brothers. I seek unity, not destruction." For the first time, Menek hesitated. But the battle raged around them, and choice was ripped away. Trumpets blared from the city walls, and then the Red Crown rose. King Jayut himself stepped onto the battlements, snow swirling around him like a serpent's breath. "Kill him!" Jayut thundered. The serpent struck. Menek's eyes hardened. He tore himself from Narmer's grasp. "For my king!" But before he could return to battle, a massive crack split the ice. Dozens of warriors fell through, swallowed by dark water. Snow sprayed upward like white fire. Narmer steadied himself, heart pounding. The river was waking. Time was running out. With the ice breaking behind them, Narmer led a desperate charge toward the city. His forces smashed through the serpent lines, pushing them backward onto the snowy causeway leading to the north gate, where frost and sunlight turned the stone arch into a gleaming halo. For the first time, panic rippled through Lower Egypt's ranks. He saw it. He raised his spear. "Break the gate! Egypt must become one!" His soldiers roared, slamming battering poles against the frozen wood. Cracks spread like lightning. General Anhor looked back. "The ice won't hold much longer." "Then we take the gate now," Narmer commanded. Another strike. The gate shuddered. Another. The hinges groaned. A final blow. The north gate shattered inward, snow exploding from the impact in a brilliant cloud of gold-lit frost. Upper Egypt stormed into Perwajet. The serpent's fortress had been breached.